shut up.
Well,
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
What? Sorry, I cut that off. The level's too high, is it?
oh,
Well, all right, because we're going to speak to someone now. Well, the level's not too high because I can watch it.
I wish
here.
we had some panel
Well, shut
controller.
up. Shut up.
Where's Rod Law?
Are we recording? We are, aren't we? So I'm going to ring this person up now.
If we had Jacinta or Rod Law
shut up.
operating the panel, we never had this problem before.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to ring up Barbara Law, who is Ian Law's wife. And Ian Law was a 106-game player for the Hawthorn Football Club between 1960 and 1968. He won 2 best and fairest in 63 and 64. He won
And 61.
I'm just getting to it. He won a premier... No, he wasn't a best and fairest in 61.
I think he was.
63 and 64. He's a premiership player in 61
Don't
and he's
argue with
been
me.
put into the Hall of Fame for the Hawthorn Football Club and the AFL, I presume.
And also, let me also go on and say, we do not pay enough... Don't you get like that with me? We don't pay enough respect to people who've gone before us. Now, Ian Law... Harry Beitzel receives a lot of credit for the starting of the Gaelic game. Ian Law was the one who initially did it.
Don, that's fantastic.
Oh, jeez.
No, Don, why don't you can say all this when we're going to speak to Barbara, his wife, and you're going to tell us why we're speaking to her, all right? We're going to ring her now.
Don't you smile,
We're going to ring her now.
You're giving him encouragement.
Shut up. Where's a number, Don? God, where's a number?
Here we go.
Here we
He's
go.
uptight and he
Here we go.
rips into you when he's uptight.
That should be it, should it?
Hello, Cry Darling, Barbara Law speaking.
Barbara Law, this is Sam Newman, and you're on our podcast, You Cannot Be Serious, with Don Scott, Barbara, and Fiona Byrne from the Sunday Herald Sun. And and I've just introduced Ian, told everyone that listens to this just his credentials and football playing career. And Don now is going to take over and tell everyone why we're speaking to you in an amazing story that we think is noteworthy to speak about.
Oh, God,
Thank you, Barbara.
Sam. Thank you.
Well, Barbara, we will go on and say, we'll first introduce this by saying that Ian, a couple of years ago, had an unfortunate accident. He was chainsawing a tree branch on your property at Wentworth, and he had a serious accident.
No, that's when basically the branch hit his head, and we think that's what caused his blindness. We're not sure though.
So he went blind as a result of that, Barbara.
Basically, fairly quickly, yes.
And he's clinically blind, is he?
Yes.
So as a result of, not as a result of that, but tell us about the mishap and the extraordinary story that unfolded as a result of him not quite being aware of where he was and what he was doing.
Yes, that's right. Well, what happened was, it's quite a bit of a saga actually, but I was in Wentworth and I left him at home and he was in bed. And I said, don't get out until I get home. Well, of course, he decided it was a lovely day, go for a walk outside. And because he's blind, he went a bit further than he thought. And the river was in flood, and he hit some water, and he said, oh, gosh, he thought to himself he was in the flooded water. But actually he wasn't. He was right on the edge, and he took a couple of more steps, and over he went into the river. And, of course, the current took him.
So he lost his balance because he lost his balance and fell into the river. And because he was blind, he wasn't quite sure if it was floodwaters or the river. So go ahead from there.
So it was which river was it, Barb?
It was the Darling River, and the Darling was in flood at that stage. And it was a pretty strong current. So he was smart enough to know he couldn't beat the current. So what he did was he just decided he'd relax. And he would just go with the current and see where it took him. Well, it took him about 7 k's down the river until he finally was able to grab hold of a bush that was on the side of the bank.
7 k's or 17?
7 down, yes.
He floated down the river with the current for 7 k's.
Yes, that's right. And in the meantime, he got very sunburnt on the, well, as you know, he's bald, and on the top of his head and across his forehead, he was very, very sunburnt. But anyway, he was able to catch hold of this plant that was on the side of the river. and he heard noises on the other bank, so he called out, and these people heard him, so they quickly got the boat and went over and pulled him out and rescued him.
So how long was he actually in the water? In the water for?
I would say it'd be at least 4 or 5 hours.
What?
Good grief!
Yes, it was an epic journey.
Now, hang on. We've also got to say that Ian is 83 years old.
That's right. Yes, he's very fit, as you can imagine.
Well, Barbara,
it's an
absolute ordeal for anyone who could see, but for someone who's blind and 83 years old to be in the water for 5 hours and travel 7 kilometres down a river is an extraordinary, example of survival. How is he?
It was really, and I think it was a good lesson for anybody that if they fall in a flooded river, don't fight it. Don't
panic.
Yes, I said to him, he said, no, he said, I knew I couldn't fight it, so I may as well go with it.
And how long ago did this happen, Barb?
Oh, he's been in hospital now for nearly 3 weeks, so about 3 weeks ago. Yes, and he's very well now. He's very bright, and they want to keep him in for a little bit longer just to make sure that he's... But the worst thing was, and you'd laugh at this, he lost his top teeth.
Oh.
And that was the worst part, and he's more worried about that than anything.
So here's Fiona Byrne. This is Fiona Byrne, Barbara.
Barbara,
right, hello, Fiona.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So Ian's been in hospital for nearly 3 weeks, you said. Can you give us some details as to what he's recovering from? Obviously, very bad sunburn.
Well, basically because, the sunburn, but also he obviously, probably drank quite a lot of water. And they just wanted to make sure that how he was mentally, because it was a huge ordeal, and just to see that. And he was when he first got out, he was quite depressed, which you could understand that.
My word.
He was So, and I think they wanted to basically see how he was going with depression, and put him on the right medication to help him with that.
He would have consumed a fair bit of river water, I suppose.
Well, that's right. Yes,
gulping.
Yes, exactly. And I think, apart from the fact, that you would be frightened, I would think, or mentally you'd be thinking about it. What the heck's going on here? How am I going to survive this? But he didn't panic, and he basically did, and because he's so fit, I think for his age, that helped a lot.
Now, Barbara, you've been presume inundated with well wishes and fans, and the Hawthorn Football Club reached out, have they?
Yes, they have. Yes, or Don Scott has, of course.
Yep.
And but Ian didn't want it to be made, a lot of things. But the word got out from the hospital and everywhere, and of course everybody found out. He said, "For God's sake, don't." He said, "I don't want a whole lot of stuff about this."
No, well, we're making a fuss over it because it's an extraordinary tale of survival, particularly, as I say, if you're unsighted.
Well, I think that's the most extraordinary part. To do that when you're totally blind like he is, and to be able to get there. And he said, if he'd had his sight, he would have probably been better. But because he really had no way, and he had no which. He said he really didn't know which way he was going, except he knew the current went south. So he said, "Well, I'll get going. I'll be down in Wentworth soon if it doesn't stop." So he realised all of that, and I think basically that was the sort of thing that gets back again. I keep harping on this because he is incredibly fit, and he always has looked after himself that way. And so that did him in good stead during this episode.
Barb, we're talking about Ian, but it just came to me, what about Barbara? It must have been unbelievable to come home from Wentworth.
The worst part was when I came home and I couldn't find him. That was the worst part. I thought, what on earth? And then I found a footprint going down to and then I thought, oh no. So, and I have to say the local police and everyone were absolutely fantastic. They all arrived here, of course, and then they decided they had to get stoned and go along the river to see if they could find his body and all this.
Oh, wow.
So, but they were wonderful, and they were a great support, and so.
And the expectation that he might, because he couldn't see, hit some rapids or some pretty turbulent water. You must just, if you can't, like like
or
walking into a dark
snag,
room.
Or get caught up in a snag or something like that. But I think it was possibly good that the river was so high and it was over a lot of the snags, because now it's dropped and you look at some of the snags and you think, God, how lucky was he didn't get tangled up in that and this sort of thing. So
And what's his,
in
how
some
long?
ways he was very lucky.
How long's he expected to be in hospital for, do you think?
Well, they seem to think probably another week.
Oh.
They want to make sure that, the medication and everything is right. If he comes out with medication, they're not sure. But he was very bright yesterday, back to his old self again, and the day before. And he was good. And, and he said, I said, when are you coming home? And he said, look, I don't know. But he said, as soon as possible. But they're looking after him and making sure that, that he is right. And so, and he's and they're very good in there at the Wentworth little bush nursing hospital. They're terrific. And
Now,
the people around have been wonderful.
Now,
So
Barb, you've got another thing coming, which we'll just get off the subject of Ian, and that is the fish from Menindee Lakes, further up the river. Now, are they going to float down past your backyard or your back door?
I was panicking about that, but no, it's too far, and apparently they're about to remove them all up there before they float down, because when I saw it, I thought, oh no, because it's a long way by river, much further by river, so hopefully, and I heard this morning that they are going to be removing them all. I don't know how they do that.
This is a fascinating conversation, Barbara, as Don's very prone to actually not explaining what it is you're actually talking about. Not you, Barbara, but him. What is the story about the fish? There's a surfeit of fish somewhere and they're about to head down the river. Or what is that story?
Yeah, well, basically, I think it's because of the flood. And it's all the river fish, and there are thousands of them. In fact, you can't even see the river.
Carp.
They're so thick. And so there's Murray cod, and there's all sorts. And there's perch and all sorts of fish.
Well, you better get out the nets.
Well, that's right. But I think a lot of them have died. I don't know. But because the locals up there are saying the stench is unbelievable. And we're all saying, God, this is our water supply. This will be lovely.
Well, the fish obviously not as hardy as your husband.
No, not at this stage anyway.
Now, Barbara,
True.
thank you very much for getting on the phone and telling us about the fate and the extraordinary tale of survival of your dear husband, Ian Law, who was I played against Ian as Don played with him and I played against him in the 60s. So it's fantastic that it turned out well, and we wish you and him well for not a speedy recovery, because it's been 3 weeks, but let's hope he recovers and can get on with his life as normal.
And find his teeth, Barbara.
Well, we've given up on that. He's now got the dentist going today.
Say hello to him for us.
Yep.
I will, and thank you so much for your support.
Good on you. All the best, Barbara.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I think we're off, Don. I think we're off. I think Barbara is no longer with us. I think that's the case.
And I've also got to thank, there's an interesting camaraderie amongst the past players at Hawthorn, and Gary Young keeps in touch with all of those fellows of the 1961 team and that era, and he informed me of Ian's plight, and thank Gary, but that's a camaraderie that exists at Hawthorn.
Camaraderie, Don.
Camaraderie.
Yes, it is camaraderie or camera, whatever you like to, however you like to explain it. So we've got the doc coming up. We've got about 10 minutes to have a chat to Phoebe about the doc
traffic.
Traffic and anything else you want to speak about. We've already spoken about. I don't know if you're interested in this. But I don't know if did you want to mention something? I just thought I'd like to get these tidbits out.
Well,
did you know the world's happiest countries? There's a survey come out.
Finland.
You've seen that survey, have you?
Yes, I have.
Oh, it came out in your paper, did it?
No. I was listening to 3AW and they were talking about it.
They did it, did they?
I think it may have been a broad release.
The world's happiest countries. How would you quantify that, Don? If they went down to Mornington, that would be the most unfriendly place on the peninsula, seeing as you're part of it. Imagine you being part of the happiest country.
Now, can
you
I get
drag
into
down the
a
averages.
far more intellectual subject than who's the happiest country? Fiona and I had phone tag, and we were ringing last night. I came in 7:45 from riding my horse, flicked on the television, and here was Married at First Sight. And I sat down and watched it. You're a devotee?
I am.
Fiona.
Yes.
And I think that this show is scripted.
Don, you love this show because you call me every night.
Jeez, Don, don't shout
You
like that.
You call me, not actually, that's unfair. You call me at least 3 times a week when the show's on to discuss what's
You're
happening.
lucky. He calls me 3 times a day.
Well, he called me, I think it was 4 times last night because you were so incensed with what you were seeing with
You
the
were
show.
saying, ring me back, what do you think?
Well, I was telling you to ring me back because I wanted to keep watching the show because another couple was being rolled through. I just think whatever is going on the show, I just love the fact that it's making people talk about TV, and the fact that you are picking up the phone and ringing to discuss what's going on between Harrison and Bronte and Ollie and Tani and
I don't know, you've got to tell. I
Wendell
know that
and Cameron
Harrison
is extraordinary.
I know Harrison, I don't know the others, but the ones who seem happy, Fiona, they don't get much airplay.
No, because
it's all drama.
It's all drama, Don.
Fiona,
It's a drama.
Would there be a chance, I don't know how well you are connected, if there's another series of this, because it's gone gangbusters, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Would there be a chance that you could you get Don on Married at First Sight? Imagine Don going to the whatever they go to and being confronted with women who are looking for partners to marry
But what
and
about
having to
their-
stump up and actually have a conversation with this man here. Oh, that would be a reality show in itself.
Well, they are casting for the next season.
no.
Casting is open. You and I could put together his application this afternoon.
So I'd finish up with a well-corseted matron.
Would you?
Well, what do you
Well,
think?
you'd
Well, I
have a
don't-
choice in it, Don. You
Gee,
don't
she-
have to go out with well-corseted matrons. You might go for the young chicks, Don, and see if you get any action with
Do you
them.
think one of them would have a father?
Big pun, Don?
What?
She'd
I
have
think they'd all have a father, hopefully.
well, you know.
No, I
what
don't
do they
know.
say? Those women are
What? Sort of a bit of a daddy complex.
yeah,
Sugar
or
daddy.
father. Yeah.
What,
kind
Don?
of. Well, you know, some women are like older men, don't they? You would know that.
Some women like older men.
Yes.
Well, have you ever been out with an older woman?
Oh.
You'd have to go out with someone who's 80 for you to go out with an older woman. Have you ever been out with a woman who's 80? That people say, oh, you like younger women. Well, I said, well, I'm 77. If I go out with a 76-year-old, that's a younger woman. Who would you like me to go out with? How old are you, Phoebe? No, we shouldn't ask you that. No,
52.
There you go.
Now, you're the first woman who's admitted that.
I-
They all. Why do women hide behind their age?
I don't know. I don't hide behind my age.
It's
Who
great.
cares?
That's great.
Well, I'm
Do
going
you know
to
what? I like being my age. I am happy to say.
Yeah, never worry about things you don't have any control over, Phoebe.
Sam-
Just don't sweat the small stuff. We're going to fill that
No,
application form in for Don.
We're going to put you into the show, and I'm looking forward to you joining our chat group on Sunday for the grand final of Married at First Sight.
What do you mean?
Yep, what do
Because
you
we'll
mean?
do a conference call.
Is the grand
You
final?
and I
Hang on,
will-
whoa. You've got to tell
It's
me
the
the
final
format.
the final
So
commitment.
what do they do on Sunday night?
Well, there's a few people who tell the others to get lost, and then
Oh,
there'll be
do
a
they?
couple that
Hey,
say
listen,
that
do
they're
you-
staying together.
you put a-
So we'll do a conference call. We'll get
Why
Sam
do
into
some
our
of these
conference
women
call.
stay on or men stay on? Do they try and promote their...
They try and promote themselves, Don.
do-
It's
Become
So
a,
an-
what do they
Enablers.
get? Fiona, what is the payback for them?
well, fame, attention,
Fame.
Instagram followers, potential opportunities to
Free
become an
ride with
Instagrammer.
stuff, getting, quid pro quo stuff. We'll mention you. We'll get...
Might get
do
employed
they
to
make
be
money out of it?
Some of them do.
Really?
Now,
Some of them
Phoebe,
don't.
Could we just say, Don and I, we want to congratulate you. You are one of the main reasons why we've had 10 million downloads. Did you see that? Did I send you that thing?
No, you didn't.
I did.
Congratulations,
I did
10
send
million.
You that. I sent you that, Phoebe. I sent you a thing saying that Podbean said we've had 10 million
Self-praise is
downloads.
no recommendation.
No,
You
it's
brought
not.
it up twice
We're doing
now.
it.
Hey,
Once
Don,
is enough.
that is a fantastic figure.
Why?
Congratulations to you both.
is.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely
No, it
terrific.
is.
Why?
Well, because this means
I
it's
can't believe the
55,000.
mentality of the people that listen to
Oh,
it.
Don, shush.
What, two bumbling idiots
Well,
talking
what
shit?
do you reckon the mentality of the average public is, Don? They have an IQ not much higher than their shoe size. And we mentioned this before. Do you know there are 3 categories of people in the world? There are idiots, imbeciles and morons. Do you know which is the most... Do you know what... if you really want to insult someone, which one of those three would you call them?
Or idiot, what?
Moron, imbecile. Which do you think is the worst? If someone
Moron or
Don.
What?
If someone calls you an idiot, that is
that's
someone
all right.
who has the mental capacity of a child from 0 to 4 years of age. From 5 to 10 is a imbecile, and a moron has the mental capacity of someone who's 12. So you border on being an imbecile or an
Moron,
idiot.
or I'd be all three.
No,
wouldn't I?
you would be all three, but if we just narrowed it down to what the most appropriate is, you're probably bordering on someone who has the mental capacity of a child of 4. I don't think there'd be an argument about that. Now, Phoebe, what
Yes,
we're going
Sam.
to do is we could either keep going here, because the doc is coming on in 10 minutes. Why are all the Scandinavian countries the happiest in the world? What does that mean? Why is that? Because the happiest countries in the world, what you said, is Finland. Did you know that? Did you?
I knew Finland was the top of this
'Cause they
particular
mentioned it on
survey.
something else. Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Israel, Netherlands, and Sweden.
And watching the credits last night at Marriage at First Sight, this show came out of one of those Scandinavian countries. Did you know that?
Oh, the original format, I
Yes.
think, was from Denmark.
Yes.
But the original format doesn't bear much resemblance to what we see here in Australia, because the original format was quite, passive and really trying to find people to pair up with each other. This is much more of, this is a super
ratings
sized version of Married at First Sight, which is all about drama.
Now, Phoebe, you weren't at the anti-trans rally outside the
No,
steps of
no,
Parliament
I
House and
certainly
weren't
was
part of the
not.
Nazi salute or anything like that, were you?
No.
No, she was at the races.
I was
Well,
not.
it was a
You're an avid
rhetorical
race
question.
goer now.
Actually, no. I did not get to the races on Saturday. I was supposed to be at Moonee Valley on Saturday.
Miracle Mile.
But no, the All Star Mile. But we had, I actually had quite a number of stories that I was working on Saturday, and just ended up not being able to get out to the track, unfortunately. But I'm going Friday night.
Okay.
Tell you
Does,
what-
does your editor realise he was very conscientious?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm
Sam,
telling him.
over
What's
to
his
you.
name?
The opposition leader, John Pasuto, is trying to expel Moira Deeming for going to the
I think
anti-trans
John Pasuto might be putting his
the
credibility and authoritarianism or whatever
anti-trans-
else on the line here.
anti-trans meeting. He was
Yes.
trying to expel her, and Dan Andrews, God love him, said Nazis aren't welcome here in Victoria. Well, there's the pot calling the kettle black.
What about Dan Andrews? He's rude again with Robert Redleg through the week, from a podcast last week to this week. That man has got no respect for authority.
Can I just getting back to Ian Law, could you imagine, Phoebe, shutting your eyes now, walking outside this door here and trying to find your way onto the footpath or anywhere? Isn't that extraordinary that you could walk into a river and stay in it for 5 hours and not know where you were or where you were floating to?
Sam, quite frankly, that is just an extraordinary story and an incredible tale of survival. I just can't. I'm stunned
What about
that
Barbara? I
I'm
was
stunned.
thinking of Barbara when she came home
Oh, I'm
and saw
thinking
the
of both
footprint
of
on,
them.
footprint on the edge of the bank.
I did speak to Ian yesterday in the
did you?
Wentworth Hospital. The very charming lass called Norma, she takes her mobile phone down to him, and I said, would you come on and have a chat to us, mate? And he said, I would be very happy to. He said, but I haven't got my teeth. I lost my teeth, and he was a bit embarrassed about the way he was speaking.
He was an unbelievably good player, and a lot of ex-players don't get recognised. He was a beautiful drop kick.
Yeah,
You
you're a drop
used to
kick.
kick drop kicks. He
do.
was a beautiful drop kick on the run, exceptionally courageous and and he represented Victoria in both football and cricket.
Now, I just want to jump back to Sam's topic about Finland being the happiest country in the world. So, that list that you were talking about, I just wanted to context, it was put together by the United Nations. So it's a United Nations report, and it's called the World Happiness Report. And it says that the factors used for the assessment included the gross domestic product per capita of people in the country, life expectancy, and perceived corruption in government and business, which I thought you might like. And this year's report had a special focus on happiness and the community, considering factors such as social media and technology, social norms, conflicts, and government policies. Interestingly, in the top 10, you mentioned Finland as number 1, Denmark, Norway, Iceland, and the Netherlands. That was the top 5. Number 6 was Switzerland. Number 7, Sweden. Number 8, New Zealand. 9, Canada. 10, Austria. Australia doesn't really seem to get a look in.
Oh, no, because it would be based around climate change and global warming and electric vehicles and who's mining and who's sending coal over. I mean, seriously, that'd be all into it. What's that No, not GFC, it's called social governance. Have you heard that SG something? Social governance. It's a worldwide policy about trying to save the planet when the planet doesn't need... The planet will spit us out before we spit it out. We have nothing to do with the way the planet's going at all. Now,
can I ask
this?
Fiona?
I say. Now, Phoebe, I notice you've been very diplomatic and haven't asked me, not that I want you to, but normally you would go the jugular about me being on the front page of the paper today.
We've covered that.
No, but Phoebe hasn't covered it, and I'm just going to give her a
Well, I
chance
thought-
if she wants to ask one question.
Were we off air when you were going through all that?
Sam, thank you. Clearly, there's a rather large story on page 1 of the Herald Sun today. It relates to your son, Max.
No, we've done all that, yes.
Yes.
But I just thought...
No, you did it off air.
No, but Sam, so for this chapter of the podcast, is there anything you'd like to... Is there anything that you can tell us about this?
No, I'm not. I had just saying I had nothing to do with it at all. I've had nothing to do with the case, but if Max wants to do that, that's his up to him, and he has every right to do it because he did suffer quite a injury from a altercation with another student, so I don't know where it's headed, but as I say, I've had nothing to do with it, but give him my support if that's what he wants. Now,
Have you been a support?
What's the next question, Max?
Max.
Sam?
Yeah. No, the next question is, Phoebe, we're getting your boyfriend on in a minute. Are we going to close off? We've might have 4 parts today, Don.
4. We will go to 10, 20 million.
The doc reckons that episodes are not just... This is our 191st episode we've done in the time we've been doing it. And he reckons if you do 3 parts, that's 3 more episodes.
And the remarkable thing about that 191 is you haven't missed one.
Because I've asked you to do it on your own. You said, no, I'm not doing it if you don't do it. We won't do it.
I'm not hamstrung. I don't want to remain relevant. I can take off and do my own thing.
Hang on. The doc has just texted me. I'm glad he's just texted me, and he said he can't come on until for another 10 minutes. So that's worked out beautifully. Because we can now just... I wanted to chat.
I wanted to ask Fiona a very good big question. Being a country girl, Fiona.
Yes, Don. What are you going to ask me? Is it Married at First Sight related?
No, it's agricultural. Because
yeah.
I am pissed off with the rabbits I've got around my property. Why can't we do... Can you...
Don, I don't know a lot about rabbits.
Okay. Have you got many rabbits up where you come from?
It's actually, I don't have an answer. I don't know. Okay, I haven't spoken to Dad about that.
Why don't we get rid of rabbits by pushing them like lamb or sheep or a form of meat? Why don't we... You can make rabbit pie, can't you? Or rabbit stew or something.
Well, you can... Yes, you would be able to eat rabbit meat.
Why can't we push that as a cheap form of food?
Myxomatosis probably has ravaged the rabbit population.
No, it hasn't. They're everywhere, John. That is what the English did, or the early Australians did, by introducing the rabbit to Winchelsea. Went down your way at Winchelsea.
Down my way?
Yes,
I live
Winchelsea.
here in the city, in the CBD here.
Yes, but you were born at Point Lonsdale, down around that way.
That's 400k from Winchelsea.
Well, no, it's not. It's just across the hill.
Don, speaking of rabbits, a priest, listen to this, Phoebe, and a pastor and a rabbit go into a clinic to donate blood. The nurse says to the rabbit, "What's your blood type?" And the rabbit says, "Probably a type O." Probably a typo. You know, it usually is a pastor, a priest, and a rabbi, but it's a rabbit. And
we got it, Sam.
No, you
No,
got
you
it.
got it. I'm
Sitting
struggling.
there
I am
as dumb
struggling.
as dog shit.
Oh.
You're sitting there, your eyes went cross-eyed like a pinball machine. Did you get that? A pastor, a priest, and a rabbit. And the nurse said, "What's your typo? What's your typo? What's your blood type?" to the rabbit. And he said, "It's possibly a typo. A type O. It's a typing mistake. It was meant to be Rabbi Don." Do you get that? Do you get that?
Can you help me later, Fiona?
Why are you so well dressed today, Don?
Do you think I am?
The last 2 weeks I've been in here, you have been really stepping up your appearance.
Well, I'm trying
no
to make
neon,
that
I
impression.
noticed.
And
No
obviously
neon.
I am because you're now noticing me. You never noticed me before.
I certainly did. I couldn't not notice you before.
Now-
You would usually be here wearing some form of neon orange, neon yellow, neon green.
This has been very opportune that the doc has just asked us to shuffle back for 10 minutes because we're just doing a shout out now, but because we've got another interview. You might be interested in the interviewee that's coming in after the doc. Oh, you might be interested in that. You might not be. So this is Michael Christian Menswear says a shout out please to Chris Bird, who works at Midas in Moona, Tasmania, and also Gavin Morrow from Horsham.
Hang on, Moona, this is the art gallery, is it?
Well done, Midas in Moona. Midas, would that be Midas Mufflers?
But isn't there an art gallery?
There is, Don.
Moona, it's called Moona, isn't
Well,
it?
I don't know, Don. I'm just reading
Fiona,
this out.
Moona, is that where the art gallery is up the Derwent
You're talking
River?
about Mona, the Tasmanian.
Moona or Mona?
Yeah, Mona, that's right.
Yeah,
Mona. This is Moona. And Mick says he's sorry for the late text today, but he's a bit overcome with exhaustion in keeping up with the chicken choking challenge.
That's his joke.
Do you remember that, Don? Last week we read out a clinical study from the European Urology University that says masturbating 21 times a month was very, very helpful for your prostate. And then they said, yes, choking the chicken at least 21 times a month. And Mick has been feverishly choking it. I'm apparently up there on the outskirts of Moona.
Have you been to the supermarket late talking about chickens?
Sorry to be a bit grubby in your presence there, but you take no notice, please, Phoebe.
I
This is
won't.
Mick, yep. And he said that we're going to ask Ben Ford on this. Michael says, Kylie apparently sent an apron, a You Cannot Be Serious apron, to Ben Fordham at 2GB, and she wanted to know if Ben had received it. So we will ask him when he comes on, because that'll be exciting, won't it, Don?
Do you know they've fitted chicken, what do they call those things, monitors, chickens, walk monitors, for free-range eggs.
Walk monitors?
Yes, you know, what do they call those things where you step? You know, they watches. What are those things? Come on, you people, how many steps you've done in a day?
Oh, yeah.
What are they called?
Apple
Well, they've done
We
something.
know what you're talking about, but just tell us.
But anyway, they've got these free-range eggs.
GPS things that tell you.
Yeah, that's is GPS.
Yes, GPS. Do you know what GPS means?
Global P. I don't know.
Don't you?
Global.
Don't you? You cross, you're dumb. You possibly. How you are still functioning is beyond me. Do you think a P might mean positioning or people?
No, I wouldn't know, Johnny. You tell me.
Global
Joey?
positioning
Joe
system.
Biden. What?
Global positioning system, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it? Don't ask
Well,
me.
I think it is. Global positioning. Yeah, that's what they do. What about it?
Okay, well, this is... I get sent things now with regard to...
Quickly.
Okay, can I read out this, what is it called, Facebook? When I initially saw this brief from VMLY&R, I was unaware of the broad ethical scope of the term free range. In the egg industry, farming methods can be quite humane, making it difficult for consumers to assess the well-being of the chickens in order to demonstrate that the chickens are
Free range.
Honest Egg Company are genuinely free. We help develop fit chicks to monitor their step count and print it on their eggs. Congrats to Airbag Legends, da-da-da-da-da.
Fiona,
Now, they have developed a thing called Fit Chicks, and it goes on the
have
egg
you ever
carton.
heard a 6-year-old child read at preschool?
Yes.
Don's now just learning to read
Actually,
like
he's doing a good
6-year-old
job, though.
child.
Can I ask you, before we call Ben, I'd like to just change the topic.
Quickly.
You went to a gathering during the week, I believe. To
This
acknowledge,
Shane-
yes, to acknowledge
yes,
Shane.
at
Yes.
the new venue called The Saint on the corner of Canterbury Road and Fitzroy Street. We did. There's about 20 of us, and it was just to get together for those people who are intimately involved with the Shane Warne tribute, and it was a very, very good night. Is that what you want me to say?
Yeah, I just
yes,
saw
it was
some-
good. And
yes, I knew that you were doing
and
it.
most of the people, we mentioned this in the first part, most of the people there listen to the podcast. So we've given them a shout out. Joe and Tony Hasham and Jackson, his son, was there. And
This is a replay of what we did in the first segment. Fiona, why don't you get here on time and not ask for the same
I didn't
Don.
mention any of the names, to be honest. But I'm just answering. And that's a new venue which is opening up, and it's how opportune. It's opening up just before the Grand Prix comes on, because it'll be swelled with numbers.
So and I just want to say, yes, you were part of a really great gathering of very dear friends of Shane Warne's, and I just thought, I knew that you were going to that, and I thought, well, what a lovely thing for all the friends to get together.
Hashams organised it, and Luke Tunnicliffe did, so it was a very good night, very good evening, nice food and nice wine. Not that I drank any of the wine, but now we're closing off now because we're getting nervous because we're
No,
going to...
you are. We're quite composed, Fiona and I.